This is Sunday afternoon. We're at a deserted construction site in Arlington, Texas, about 19 miles from Dallas, with Harold Williams. Mr. Williams, have you ever met Jack Ruby?
Well, in November, the beginning of November, in the year that President Kennedy was assassinated, I did see Jack Ruby outside of a club in North Dallas, the McCarter Club. I was in there having some fun at the party, you know, and we were to see some girls which Jack Ruby was to punish for us, and we were to drink, sit around and have a good time. This was a club where both white and colored attended here in Dallas, and it was well known as an after-hours spot. And I was in one of the various rooms that they have there with a girl talking and smoking. And when this guy dressed in plain clothes came in and very roughly told me to sit down. Out of nowhere came a bunch of guys that began to rough me up. Then I was taken handcuffed to a car. It was an ordinary car. It was not a police car. I could use the word, it was an off-duty car. And I began to take notice of who was in the car, their faces, and trying to hear names. And from the driver of the car, who was a fellow of rather small stature, I would say about 4 or 5'8", called the guy that was sitting on the right-hand side, not on the driver's side, but on the passenger side, in the front seat, called him and said, "Hey, Rube, why we didn't get you in this?" So he said, "Well, you got to know somebody." They talked about various things on the way. Mostly, the conversation was where I couldn't too much hear it. But I never heard the guy called Rube call the other man's name, but I did get to see his face. Well, when we got downtown, the guy that was called Rube, whom I knew by then, knew that it was the Jack Ruby who had punished us many times. We had punished girls for us at the various clubs where we would have a party. Came on into the station with us, and he stopped down at the desk, and we were taken on into a room and began to be asked our names and so forth like that, and began to be booked. Well, at that time I was booked for resisting arrest, violation of curfew, and investigation for the use of narcotics. And subsequently I was put into a jail cell. After that time, a lot of things began to happen. My roommate was watching TV, and as I came in, I began to watch TV also. And they were replaying the killing of Oswald. And I said, "Man, when did this happen?" It should happen this morning, I guess. I said, "Man, this guy actually killed him on TV." He said, "Yeah, right on TV." I said, "Yeah." So they began to show different pictures of the people involved, Tippit and all of them. And as I sat there, I looked, and I said, "Well, I've seen this guy before." This Tippit guy said, "I've seen him before." He said, "Oh, man, you haven't seen him?" I said, "Yes, I have. I've seen him before." I said, "You remember that night when I was arrested over there at the McCarter Club?" He said, Yeah, I remember." I said, "Well, that guy, Tippit, was the guy that was driving the car, and Ruby was in the front seat with him." I said, "Man, they're friends." He said, "What?" I said, "They are friends."
Mr. Williams, are you sure that the two men in the front seat of that unmarked police car, early in November 1963, were Officer J.D. Tippit and Jack Ruby?
I am sure. I have no doubts and I have no qualms about this at all.
Mr. Williams, what was Jack Ruby's relationship to the Mikado Club?
Well, he would punish girls for the show that we had over there. Everybody would, that was one of the things that he would do. I mean, everybody would come in, including police officers, off-duty police. They would come in and see the show. Practically everything went on over there. Dope. I mean, you could light a weed, you know, if you wanted one. You could get booze, or you could buy a broad if you wanted to buy one. You could buy one then. Any kind you wanted. You could buy a color or you could buy a white one.
Since November 24th, of course, you've seen pictures of Jack Ruby. And, of course, you've seen pictures of Officer J.D. Tippit. Is there any doubt in your mind that the two men you saw in the car that evening in November were Jack Ruby and Officer J.D. Tippit?
There's no doubt in it. They were Jack Ruby and Officer J.D. Tippit. I saw J.D. Tippit driving the car. I saw Jack Ruby sitting in the car with him. And this happened all the way from McCarter Club on Thomas Avenue to the city jail downtown Maine and Harwood. I had plenty of time to observe, and these are the men that I observed.